In Joshua 3 verse 5, Joshua exhorts the Israelites to consecrate themselves, for tomorrow the Lord would do wonders among them. This was of course referring to the initial trek as a collective people into the Promised Land. He continues to speak of the Lord's faithfulness and providence in guiding them into their inheritance and bringing them success in the coming conquest of Canaan. In verse 10, Joshua goes on to say, "By this you will know that the living God is among you, that he will without fail drive out from before you the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Hivites and the Perizzites and the Girgashites and the Amorites and the Jebusites." This is not allegory or symbolism. It is a matter of fact and a matter of historical record. But there is certainly a secondary application to be drawn from this encounter. We must remember that the same God that made and fulfilled his covenant with the Hebrews is the same God who has established the new covenant with you and I. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. If God is for us, who can be against us? While this is absolutely true, sometimes we tend to stand against ourselves in a sense. Sometimes we may stray from his providential path and thereby warrant the correction of a loving Abba with our best interest at heart. We all face seasons of difficulty and limited understanding as to its regards. But that's where the provision of faith comes in. Just as the Israelites were exhorted to consecrate themselves that they might see God's wondrous works among them, so too does the Lord call us to consecrate, or set ourselves apart so that we may experience all he has for us and bear the fruit that he intends. We must remember that while many of the Lord's promises are unconditional, some on a personal level are not. There's a tangible reason that we're called to be holy as he is holy. It is so that we'll be unhindered in the execution of a sanctified life used as the Maker intends. God doesn't call his people to be perfect in this pre-glorified state, for indeed we cannot be. But he does call us to pursue holiness. For when we do, we get the unparalleled privilege of his fellowship and the abundance and purpose of being not only his subjects and servants, but also his children and friends. The consecrated Israelites were assured that the Lord would indeed grant a conquest marked by victory if his people would follow him with all their hearts. It was a consecrated people who stood firm on dry ground in the midst of the Jordan, just as they had in their prior hour of need in the Red Sea. In both scenarios, it's a given that God's intervention was an absolute necessity. Perhaps you're currently resting on the banks of your own Jordan, or perhaps your back is to an ominous sea as oppressors approach. It makes no difference for the sanctified saint, for we have the unfettered assurance that when we consecrate ourselves to him, he will give us sure footing on solid ground. He will lead us as the pillar led the Israelites through the wilderness, and he will drive out every last measure of our opposition. For God fights for the consecrated subject.